We've covered this topic with a lot of you guys, but process, not prize. But I want to do a deep dive on this, okay? So for today's mastermind call, we're talking about input over output, the importance of both, when and where to focus on each one, okay? Um, we're basically talking about divorcing yourself from results, okay? And I'm going to start with the problem. Okay, the problem with focusing on the results, okay, the sales or the income is it's not fully in our control. And therefore, if we are completely married to the result, we will be up and down. So our results will be inconsistent, our attitude will be fluctuating, our confidence will fluctuate. Okay, if there's one thing that you guys need, it's you need consistency, not just with schedule, but with your mindset. And in sales, control is everything, right? If the prospect is asking questions, they have control. If you're asking the questions, you have control, which means you'll get the sale. If they ask the questions, you're not going to get a sale. Okay. The same thing goes with your input and feeling in control. Okay. So we're going to talk about both scenarios and the differences. But the problem, let me just kind of highlight the problem of focusing on results. Okay. We recorded a video on this. So this will be added to the sales training, this mastermind, but there's also another sales training on this. So you guys can refer to that video. But in the solar industry, there's the solar coaster. It's like the infamous solar coaster. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And other terms have been coined as like getting in a rut. Okay. My mindset is not flawless, but I don't get in a rut for more than 12 hours. It doesn't happen. Okay. I stay consistent. All right. And I'm going to talk about how we do that. You know, this Kobe Bryant mentality of staying in the middle, staying centered. Okay. Not getting too high, not getting too low. But here's the problem with being focused on the prize, on the output, the results. Okay. You are susceptible to failure. You get inconsistent results. There's always pressure, but the pressure from this type of thinking becomes negative. You rely on motivation to get things done. You become impatient with yourself, with the work. You get irritated. Okay. And you breed entitlement when you focus on results. When your work ethic is low, but your expectations are high, that is when you breed entitlement. Okay. I call it the E word. Entitlement will ruin your sales career. It will ruin teams. Okay. It ruins culture. It's awful. Okay. You'll feel off and on. You'll feel out of control, susceptible to arrogance, getting cocky. Okay. If you think if you're hot stuff, you're doing well, performing well. Okay. You usually stop and you kind of plateau. You focus on the destination and achieving and arriving versus being focused on becoming and building in the journey. Okay. And the failure gets you down, but the difference between people who are process focused and people who are prize focused is when people who are focused on the process, they're down, they get back up because they're not worried about the results. So they're going to consistently move forward. They know if they fail, that's great. It's moving them closer towards their goal. And the perspective is that the failure is getting them what they want, where the results-driven person sees failure, rejection as a negative thing, okay? And so it gets the prize-focused people, when they get down, they stay down. And they start getting in their head thinking, what's wrong with me? Something's not going right. I changed my area, I changed my pitch. When really your focus is on the wrong thing. So then begs the question, okay, if we're just process focused, like, do we not even talk about sales targets? Do we not even talk about how much money we want to make, right? And this transcends sales and business. This goes to fitness. This covers relationships, okay? Any target you're going after, you still need to have a target. But on the day-to-day level, the measurement needs to be on input, okay? On the week to week, on my Sundays, I reflect on my output to analyze how am I doing? Am I getting closer towards, are my inputs getting me closer towards my long-term output target? Is the process I'm following, am I on pace to get the prize I want? Okay. They talk about Olympic athletes, guys, when they retire from their, the games and competing, most of them go through a state of serious depression because they stopped the pursuit of chasing something. Okay. I posted something on my story today. I forwarded it from Alex Hermosi, and he talked about how this like thought of retirement is just this facade. Like we've never had retirement for centuries, but all of a sudden the last 75 years, it's this new thing, right? We got to retire from our work. It's like we're escaping. Like the point of life is to work and provide. Okay. There's purpose in it. All right. So with that, I want to also tell you guys a story. You guys heard of Slack, I'm sure. Okay. Slack is a very large, I'm pretty sure they're valued at around 26 billion as of 2024. They're a communication CRM. All right. When they started out on their business journey, they raised millions of dollars in seed funding to build out a video game. Okay. So their output target was a video game. And they developed this robust communication system that was amazing for the game, but they didn't attract enough players and enough money to keep the game going. So investors pulled out, they scrapped the project. Had their focus been solely on the output target of we're creating a video game and that is all, they would have called it quitsies and given up. But they were obsessed on the process and what they had built from it, of this amazing communication in game, and said, hey, this actually might be useful in the real world. And Slack was built. Okay. So sometimes what you intend on achieving when you go on a pursuit for something is not always what you're going to get. The problem with focusing on the destination is not only are you going to be unsatisfied when you get there, but you're missing the whole point of who you're becoming. And again, it's in your likelihood of actually achieving and arriving to great points in your life. Like you can't even get there if you're prize focused, if you're output focused. So again, this doesn't mean that we just completely ignore the goals. Okay. It's the day-to-day of what the focus is. When I set my targets for the day, there are zeros for sales. It's not a target. Because a sale is an output-based, it's a part of an equation. I put in X and Y, I get out Z. I don't set my day-to-day targets on Z. I know, hey, if I present to two families, I know, hey, if I present to two people, I'll close one deal on average. Okay. The problem with focusing on that though is I can pitch two people and get zero. And then when I'm results focused, I get commission breath, I get desperate, I get nervous, and I get down on myself for not closing a deal. This is where manipulative and pushy salespeople come into play. All right. Nothing about our program is breeding people to become a master closer. You're breeding yourself to become a master communicator. Okay. And develop yourself enough where you can work hard to put yourself in enough opportunities to close more deals. Okay. So I know, hey, look, when I'm knocking doors, if I talk to 5 decision makers, I'll get 1 appointment set. So if I want 6 appointments that day, that's still on my mind. I'm still thinking I want 6 in the day if I'm knocking a full day, right? 6 to 10. So let's just say on the low side, 6. So 6 times 5 is 30. So I have to talk to 30 decision makers. There's my target. But you guys also know from the playbook, 100K month playbook, you need to give yourself a buffer. So I don't do 30, I'll do 35 or 40 because I can't guarantee those odds, right? but what I can guarantee you is my input. And the more I focus on my input, the more I feel in control. And the confidence behind a salesperson, an entrepreneur, a human that knows, hey, when I take X action, I'm going to get Y results, only a matter of time. You start seeing yourself as the person who does X action. You're becoming that person. And if you can create an identity around that, okay, and enjoy the process, you will achieve a lot greater rewards, okay? But there needs to be this consistent push between these checks and balances where you're pushing towards a target, you achieve it because you have the input focus and the discipline, okay? Reverse engineer the success, find a mentor in the space who's achieved it, do what they've done, do a little bit more work, you achieve it, you level your head out, you reach up, go get more mentorship, onto the next level, okay? It's a system you guys can implement and just duplicate. Again, this goes to not just sales, but fitness, okay? You can see yourself becoming an athlete, bodybuilder, and look at the system to get there, okay? If you, I mean, think of it. If let's say you're 50 pounds overweight and you start going to the gym every damn day, 2 hours a day, you start going ham. Well, 3 weeks into it, you're starting to get a little tired, worn out. And you say, dude, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I've lost 2 pounds. At this rate, this is going to be a nightmare. That's what happens when you're focused on the results. So divorce yourself from the results, okay? What gets measured gets improved. You measure results on a week-to-week, month-to-month, and quarter-to-quarter basis and annually, okay? Day-to-day, you measure inputs only, but you do need to measure, okay? And there should be no shame in association with not achieving targets. Give yourself a pat on the back and recognize the wins. You guys know I track my wins vigorously. It gets my mind in a positive mindset. I never start my day with meetings that are going to be like putting out fires. I start with winning. I start with achieving and doing, moving towards targets. Okay. It builds momentum. Momentum builds day to day. So we've talked about setting targets day to day, week to week, and then measuring. Every single day you should know what your target is. And then by the end of the day, you're measuring, okay? Again, you're not focused on sales, you're focused on inputs. So let me talk to you guys about what the process focus looks like, okay, versus the prize. So the process focused, they're always winning, okay? They're always growing. If failure is inevitable, we're not trying to avoid failure. The prize focused individual will innately view failure as failure, like it's like a dead end, right? Where the process focused person, individual, sees failure as part of the equation. And so they chase failure more, which means they learn faster and they succeed more, okay? The biggest factor is the consistency in their mindset and the results. So Kobe Bryant, guys, outtrained everybody. You see the same thing with Michael Phelps. If you look at their regimen, they usually did 2 to 3x what the average NBA or Olympic swimmer. Okay, these aren't just average Joes. They're top of the league, best in the world. And these elite guys, Kobe, Michael Phelps, did 2 to 3x what those guys did, okay? Which would be about 10x what an average individual would do. So their input was 10x. And when they won games, they won things. Okay, Kobe was always talk about being centered. You can have this high when you make a ton of money, you sell in week to week, month to month, day to day, and you can have the lows when you're not doing well. You have to be right here, centered, in the middle, neutral, okay? Talk to you guys about having those days where you'll make $30,000 in a day and you're going to drive home listening to a motivational video, just head down. Tomorrow's a new day. And you'll know you're on track when on those drives back home after a big day, you're thinking, crap, my input today wasn't enough. I'm not teed up to have a big day tomorrow. Okay, not in a shaming light, but in a, I got to get my act together. I've got to push harder tomorrow. Okay, that's how laser focused I am on input. I give myself a pat on the back. Cool, good job. We won. Super grateful. You know, I'll have to say a prayer of gratitude. And then I think I need to take more action. Okay. Divorce yourself from the results. So, other things with this, okay? Processed, focused individuals. They rely on discipline, not motivation. The pressure is inevitable, okay? Pressure can break you or it can make you. Diamonds, pearls are made out of pressure, okay? But pressure also breaks things. This is when pressure works for you, not against you, when your mindset is right, okay? You'll be more patient because you're not going to have this crazy expectation. All right. You're not going to have entitlement because you're going to have the opposite of entitlement. Entitlement is high expectation, low work ethic. The discipline process folks individual, the high achiever, has high work ethic, low expectation. So everything is excess, it's bonus, it's icing on the cake, it's the cherry on top. Okay. You want to feel like every win is a bonus. Okay. You get this positive momentum if it's excess. And that starts with filling your cup in the morning, whether it's morning routine or whatever you do. Okay. You've got to feel like you're winning. You feel in control, not out of control. You have that consistency going for you. You have a level head. You're not getting too high. You're not getting too low. You're not getting cocky. You're not getting depressed. Okay. You're not focused on destination and arriving and achieving. You're focused on becoming and building. That mantra, everything goes my way. Everything's happening for me, not to me, which means you're obsessed on the journey. So a lot of people look at someone like me and this guy's just obsessed with destination. Like he's just got these massive goals. Like, bro, I'm in it for the journey. I'm in it for who I'm becoming. Okay. And if you can see who you're becoming through all the pain, the hard work and the discipline, and see the output, not just of the prize, but the output of the human being on the other side of that, guys, and how that's going to attract and inspire other people, that should light a fire under your ass. When you go from selfish thinking about you to selfless of impact, that's when you start doing bigger things. Okay. And then failure gets you excited. It doesn't get you down. Because again, every time I get a no, it's getting me closer to the next yes. So I've trained my brain to think go for no, right? It gets me in front of more people, and I could sell at half the rate of other guys, and I still beat them. But because I've taken the pressure off, I increase my work ethic. I dominate them on both ends, on the skill end and on the work ethic end, and ultimately the results. But a lot of guys know how to sell, okay? But they don't have consistency because they lack the self-discipline, they lack and they lack this mindset of the process, not the prize. Okay. So that's that concludes a lot of this training, guys. I want to open up for Q&A. While you guys think about questions you want to give or ask, I'm just going to tell you guys an analogy you've probably heard. I've got this lion behind me. Okay. Eric Thomas always talks about this principle of the lion versus the gazelle. Look, society, I'm like obsessed with breaking the norms of society and like the, you know, these cultural norms within society, religious groups of just what is acceptable, what's normal. Okay. We talked about, you know, retirement. I think it's bogus. Like you're escaping your line of work because you hate your line of work. You hate what you do. That ain't going to be me. But the people who are running, like the difference between lions and gazelles. Okay. Number one, gazelles only run when they're forced to. They run from. Lions run towards. Lions don't hunt from 9 to 5 p.m. They hunt until they get one gazelle and they go get another and another and another. Okay, they're feeding their family. They're doing it to survive. Okay, that's the game. The gazelles only run when they're being chased, pushed, right? Out of fear. Think of that. That's how most people live their life. They only work, they only do when they have to pay bills. You start getting ahead, okay? You can become king of your jungle when you start hunting and chasing towards. You got to know what the damn target is and you got to go get it. Follow the process, divorce yourself from the prize. Let's open for Q&A, guys. Any feedback, input, anything, questions?
I just had a thought here, Nick.
Yeah, Patrick.
I love when I was on the doors, this whole concept of the law of averages and, talking about numbers like you talked about today really was my like go-to. And it was the only way I could like get away from anxiety to an extent, right? As much as you can, because it's always there. But just because it was more like, I don't have to worry about me as long as I do my work. I know my numbers. As long as I hit my numbers, then the results will come. Um, and when I would tell that to guys, one of the biggest mistakes I would see them make is they would knock 10 doors and be like, oh, I didn't get my three. I'm a 3 and 10. That means I got to quit for the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to have a big enough number set for the law of averages to play out. So it's not just a matter of every single 10 you're going to close three, but if you get up to 200 doors in the day, that's when you've given yourself enough opportunity for the numbers to set in.
Yep. Dude, if you can just remember this, it's not about winning or losing. It's about the input and what it takes to win more times than not and following that. Whether, for example, you get 5 sets in a day or 5 sales in a day in pest or whatever, okay, that like I've seen so many people, Patrick, on both sides of the coin, right? They'll get, let's say, 5 sets and then call it a day at 2:00. The problem with that is the law of momentum. I've seen the day I can preach on this because I've had over a dozen days, over 20 accounts sold in pest control. Okay. Most guys get 2 to 3 a day. The only way, like if you look at my last 15 sales, they were made in about 3.5 hours because of momentum. So the guys who quit early in the day because they hit their target, right? They literally missed out on 3 times the earnings and momentum that carries over from day to day, week to week. So they could literally 3 to 4x the result if they were not focused on the prize. But because they hit their prize on the day, they're good.
So I actually have a follow-up question for you for that, Nick. So you said that you hit, the next 15 sales in the next 3.5 hours or whatever. What happened after those 3.5 hours?
It was late. It was so dark.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Because I was just
you're that's why I tell people it's not a race to get yes or no. It's a race against time. If we had 36 hours in a day, we would all do more. The clock is the enemy. The clock is the main thing slowing you down. So when you change your perspective on, it's not about people telling me yes or no, it's about people wasting my time and me allowing myself to waste my time. So one thing to know with that is spend more time with better prospects. Okay. The best salespeople aren't trained, they're found because of who they've become. Okay. With prospects, it's very easy to find easier people that are more qualified. You just got to get in front of them. Who's worth your time, who's not.
love that.
What else, guys?
I don't have a question, Nick, but what I would add to it is we're talking about the inputs and we're talking about a lot of the actions. In some of the process focus, you did bring up like kind of a mindset. So some of the things in the control. So I always think of like the 3 things that I can control in the day that are the inputs. One is, yes, your actions, the amount of doors you knock, right? Can't always control the amount of people, but the more doors you knock, the more people you talk to, right?
Yeah.
Also controlling your attitude. So the inputs that you're putting in your brain, what's your attitude about what you're doing, right? Are you focusing more mentally on how bad this sucks or how awesome this is that you have the opportunity to go do this, right? and what's the outcome from that. The other thing is your effort or your energy that you go about doing the action. Okay, because we can go knock as many doors as we want and talk to those 30 decision makers, but are we putting in the energy and the effort towards those? So that's another input that has to do with this process focus, because we could have the actual actions down, but if you're not having the actions in your mind and in your energy as well, you're not going to see that result as much as you would as if you're without focusing on those inputs.
It's amazing, Brock. Thank you for adding that. That's essential, because if you leave out that aspect, yeah, you can set yourself up for failure. So thank you for like your attitude and your energy with each action. Here's how I put it. I like to boost myself mentally, give myself enough food, energy, whether I take a little bit of caffeine before I go out. I give myself the unfair advantage to get momentum, because the first few are always the hardest. There's always anxiety. It's never going to go away. It's always there every single day. The anxiety comes back, and it's how fast can you eat the frog? How fast can you make the plunge? Just get it out of the way. So for me, it's just go get the first one as fast as you can. It's just one. Just go get the one, and then you go get another. You can show up to the next door, the next homeowner, and just bring your full energy, your best self to one person, and then go bring it to one more. How hard is that? When we look at this thing of like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 people a day, it's like, wow, that's a lot. But just go get one. Go get one. Go give one your absolute best, and have the peace of mind knowing, hey, I gave that my all. That's not my loss. That's theirs. And if I had the best salesperson in the world, like they still wouldn't have got that. Like that's the energy you need to be leaving each door. It's more important how you feel when you walk away from every input, every opportunity. Did you give your best? Okay. Love that, Brock. Thank you, dude. Money.
I wanted to add to that. I think one thing that you said, Brock, talking about the second part, right, is your the things you're putting into your head, whether or not this sucks or I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It comes back to what you talked about, Nick. Entitlement versus gratitude, right? How great is the opportunity? I mean, you can think about it about like, we have such a great opportunity. All we have to do is go and knock doors to make a shit ton of money, versus, man, this sucks. I'm getting paid so well to go and knock doors all day. Like, it's just it's two different mindsets, and it's really hard to juggle that sometimes. But I think that's the thing to keep in mind is just being grateful for the opportunity.
Oh, I love that, man. One thing I do that helps me with that, Patrick, is in this workbook, the 100K a month playbook, on page 10, or wait, let's see, page 10, bonus motivation for prospecting, calculate your earnings per no, and then earnings per door knocked or call made. So that number is usually over $5 per door for most people. For some guys, it's like upwards of 30. Right. So every time
That's a really cool thing to think about.
yeah, man. Yeah, my numbers, when I get a no on the low side, it's $100. Think of that. I mean, how can you lose, dude? Like even if it's $5, somebody tells me no, on average, I make $5. How many times can I go get no? Right. That mentality is so powerful, because the pressure doesn't get removed. Pressure can't be pulled off. It can just be channeled and funneled. Okay. And it takes the negative pressure and turns it into positive. It gets you talking to more people. Okay. I love that.
Well, I love that too, because talking about that, it makes you realize the only person or the only thing that causes your failure is you just deciding not to work that day. Because even the no's are making you money.
Yep. It's just not taking action and having a bad attitude either, or the combination of both. Yeah, Brock, that was a golden nugget. Thank you for sharing that, man. Love that. And guys, on that note of positive attitude and energy, nobody is just always happy-go-lucky salesperson. Okay. I'm not that way. I'm not wired that way. I'm not special. You're not special. You're a dumbass if you think you are. I have to train my mind, okay, and not just train, but actively resell myself, okay, on what I'm doing. We get so much rejection, so many no's. Yeah, we're making good money per no, but what can happen is the attitude, the demeanor, the nonverbal, the paraverbals, the energy can drop throughout the day. We can refuel our stomach, pop some caffeine, but if we're still like, what we think about, we still manifest this like, wow, man, people are just like, nobody's here on Saturday, or, man, everyone's just pissy today. You could get 2 people that were pissy, and the next 10 are in great mood, but because you're manifesting because you're manifesting that they're pissy, the next 8 to 10 are going to be pissy. If you're manifesting that, hey, they're going to be, don't have a lot of time or not interested, you're going to get that. We project what we think we project onto other people. It's amazing the influence that our mind has. In your energy, guys, nonverbal, paraverbal is about 90% of communication. So what Brock's talking about is so huge. So I am always selling myself on the doors. If you guys, there's a lot of video clips on TikTok and social media where I'm just like talking to myself. I do that not just like for social media. I do that all the time. I'm talking to myself, talking about how awesome the product is, what a great day it is. Like, their loss, not mine. I'm constantly doing that. Hey, I'm one of the best at this. I'm lucky to have this opportunity. I just fill my mind with positive things, and I'm saying it in between doors, in between calls and doors. Okay. You just have to show up for one person, 100%, and just do that again. It's not that hard, right? Love that, guys. Love it. Other questions? Input? Freaking awesome feedback. Awesome input, guys. Okay. We'll wrap up early. Loved it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all.